There is a kind of person who has always been here. They go by different names in different centuries. The cunning woman, the hermit, the witness, the seer, the exile. The world has tried more than once to be rid of them. The world has never managed it. If you carry one of these patterns, you already know. Today, the exile. Not the one cast out for crime, the one cast out for being too much of something the village could not name. In Athens, 25 centuries ago, the citizens gathered once a year to vote. They wrote names on broken fragments of pottery. The fragments were called ostracon. The man whose name appeared most often was sent away for 10 years. The charge was never theft, the charge was never murder, the charge was excess. You have become too much, you see too clearly, you speak too plainly, you must go. This is where we get the word ostracism. It does not mean punishment for a crime. It means the removal of someone who has become structurally inconvenient, someone whose presence makes the city uncomfortable in ways the city cannot quite explain. Some were generals, some were poets, some were philosophers. The common thread was not what they had done. The common thread was what they were. They were too much of something. The village voted them out, and the village called it democracy. Now go further back, to the coast of the Black Sea. A young man named Diogenes was exiled from his home city of Sinope. The charge, according to legend, was defacing the currency. His father was a money changer, and Diogenes was accused of debasing the coin. He took the accusation and made it his life's work. The Greek phrase parakaratein to nomisma meant to deface the currency. Diogenes turned it metaphorical. He decided he would spend the rest of his days defacing the currency of human convention. Not coins, customs, manners, the unspoken rules that hold a city together. He lived in a pithos in the marketplace. He owned almost nothing. He performed acts that scandalized polite Athenians in public, with no shame. When Alexander the Great visited him, he asked if there was anything he could do. Diogenes told him to stand out of his sunlight. The Athenians called him kynikos, the dog. From this we get the word cynic. It was meant as an insult. He kept it as a name. Here is what mattered. Diogenes was not strange because he was broken. Diogenes was strange because he had seen through. His weirdness was not a symptom. His weirdness was an argument. Every act of refusal was a statement. The conventions you call sacred, he was saying, are not sacred. They are agreements, and I will not sign. Now move forward 2,000 years. Amsterdam, the year 1656. A 23-year-old man called Baruch Spinoza was summoned by the elders of the Jewish community. They read out a Cherem against him. It is one of the harshest excommunications in recorded history. Members of the community were forbidden to speak with him, to read what he wrote, to come within 6 feet of him. Spinoza did not recant. He changed his name to Benedict, moved to a small room, and began grinding lenses for a living. He spent the rest of his life thinking in solitude. When the University of Heidelberg offered him a prestigious chair in philosophy, on the condition that he not disturb the public religion, he refused. He preferred the lenses. These are 3 stories. They are separated by centuries, by language, by geography. They share one thing. Each man was sent away not for what he did, but for what he was. Each man's strangeness was not eccentricity. It was clarity that could not be metabolized by the community around him. You recognize this. You have always recognized this, because this is not ancient history. This is the pattern you have been living. This is the exile, one of the 7 Sigma INFJ archetypes, the figure who is not cast out for harm done, but for clarity carried, the one whose presence becomes inconvenient long before anyone can articulate why. What the Athenians call too much, Jung would later identify as nigh-dominant cognition operating without an off switch, introverted intuition that perceives the unspoken contract running beneath every social interaction and cannot pretend it is not there. The exile is not socially clumsy. The exile sees the choreography too clearly to dance it convincingly. This is not supernatural. It is structural. The exile's nervous system is calibrated for pattern recognition at a depth that most people do not access. They notice the inconsistency between what is being said and what is being done. They feel the temperature of a room shift before anyone speaks. They cannot unnotice these things, so they cannot fully perform belonging. The weirdness you have been apologizing for your entire life is not a deficit. It is the visible residue of seeing more than you are supposed to see. the defacing of the currency, the refusal to sign agreements you never agreed to in the first place. I want you to sit with this for a moment. Every time you have been called intense, too much, hard to read, off-putting, intimidating, strange. Every social configuration you have walked away from, you have felt somehow exiled, even when no one named the exile out loud. These were not character flaws, these were signals. The exile pattern was running in you. It was doing what it has always done. Diogenes did not learn to live in a jar. He arrived already incapable of pretending. Spinoza did not become a heretic. He had always thought this way. The community eventually noticed, the exile is born, not made. The world either tolerates this or it does not. Mostly it does not. So your weirdness is not a flaw to be corrected. It is the shape clarity takes when it cannot be folded into conventional life. It is rebellion in its quietest form, the refusal to debase what you actually see in order to fit somewhere you are never going to fit. This changes how you must understand your own life. I have known exiles all my life. I have watched them try every door. The exile inheritance is not punishment. It is a kind of office. Every century, every culture produces a small number of people whose job, whether they know it or not, is to refuse the local consensus. Not for rebellion's own sake, for the sake of something they can perceive and others cannot yet. This is the gift. The exile is a calibrator. They register what the group is in denial about. They notice when the polite story does not match the actual events. They are not pleasant to have at the dinner table. Pleasant requires going along, and they have never been able to go along without lying. So they get sent away, and the sending away, painful as it is also the condition that lets them keep seeing. There is no version of the exile that gets the warmth of full belonging, and also keeps the clarity. You can have the clarity, or you can have the village. You cannot have both. This is the deal. Diogenes knew it. Spinoza knew it. You have known it since you were a child. Now the shadow, the exile pattern can corrupt in two directions. The first is bitterness, the exiled one who decides the village was always beneath them and spends the rest of their life mocking it from the jar. This is the dog turned vicious. The intelligence is preserved, but the heart calcifies. The second corruption is collapse. The exile who decides the village must have been right. They spend a lifetime trying to dim themselves down to a shape that will be accepted. This kills the gift. The light goes out. The currency gets re-signed. I have watched both of these corruptions happen in people I love. They are not theoretical. The work then is neither. The work is tending the strangeness rather than punishing it, tending to the clarity rather than apologizing for it, tending the small, slow life that lets the perception stay intact, while still finding the handful of people who can stand to be near someone who sees this much. You are not too much. You are too much for a particular kind of room. There are other rooms. There always have been. The cunning women found each other. The Stoics found each other. The lens grinders and the dog philosophers and the pattern readers across centuries have always managed to find each other. You did not choose this office. It was already in you when you arrived. You can choose how you carry it from here. If this has landed somewhere it needed to land, then you may already know what comes next. There are 7 Sigma INFJ archetypes, and each one carries a different gift, a different burden, a different mythic responsibility. The link in the description will take you to a free assessment that reveals yours. It takes about 3 minutes. The answer tends to land harder than people expect. And if you want to keep walking these threads with me, into the deeper psychology of the Sigma INFJ, into the archetypes the world has forgotten how to name, subscribe. There are far older and stranger things still to uncover. Until next time, find your power. Know your myth.